Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Pontiac Silverdome in Pontiac, Michigan for another incredible United States Hot Rod Association Championship Mud Racing and Monster Truck Spectacular. I'm Brett Kebner along with Shelley Herman. We'll be bringing you one of the wildest U.S. Hot Rod Association events ever here tonight. We've got side-by-side elimination format monster truck racing with the biggest and baddest machines in the business. And, of course, the return of the incredible super modified mud racers, the quickest and fastest off-road vehicles anywhere. And, Shelley, we've even got a special thrill show feature planned for tonight.
The fans in the stands here, as well as you at home, are really in for a treat. We have the famous Tower Power stunt being performed by Brian Carson. This is something that is incredible. The flames like I've never seen before. Plus, we have a funny car tug of war.
That's right. A pair of supercharged, fuel-injected, 3,000 horsepower rear-engine funny cars will be hooking up back-to-back and performing a 6,000 horsepower tug of war for the first time ever at U.S. Hot Rod Association competition. All this is coming your way, including a special demolition derby later on in the program. Please stay with us. We'll be back with the start of action here at the Pontiac Silverdome at the U.S. Hot Rod Association Championship Mud Racing and Monster Truck Spectacular in just a moment. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the Silverdome in Pontiac, Michigan. We're ready for the start of monster truck competition here at the U.S. Hot Rod Association Mud Racing and Monster Truck Spectacular. As you can see, the two different tracks in our side-by-side racing. Track one, the farthest away from the camera, is Mark Bendler out of Milwaukee, Wisconsin, driving the incredible GMC Kodiak. And in the near lane, the boss from Southern California, Todd Blazer, sponsored by AM/PM Stores. Side-by-side start to this first battle in the first round of eliminations. And it looks like Bendler comes down off the cars first, and Kodiak takes the first matchup win over the AM/PM boss. Shelley Herman, Mark Bendler's always a tough one.
Well, you know, he's on the road 38 weeks out of each year, and it's with that kind of dedication, it's no wonder that he's a winner.
Well, I'll tell you, Mark Bendler has a lot of enthusiasm going at this event because just a couple of weeks ago, he won the first ever indoor monster truck race in the state of Wisconsin in front of his hometown fans in Milwaukee with this kind of performance. On the replay, look at that landing. A lot of air into this machine, and even though it was a little bit sideways on the landing, Bendler still drives out of it beautifully. And by the way, that supercharged big block Chevrolet in that thing is one of the most powerful motors in monster truck racing. Here you see Blazer, the AMP Super Boss, getting a little bit out of shape when he hits the cars, if only because it looked like he didn't have enough power when he hit them. But indeed, Kodiak goes to the next round. This matchup, in the far lane, it'll be Jess Burgee, one of the newer drivers of the circuit with a beautiful new chop-top Playin For Keeps monster truck. And he'll be up against a new entry of the U.S. Hot Rod Association Trail. In the near lane is Dan Tassone and the Star Monster, a beautiful piece of equipment. Now, both these guys are newcomers to the U.S. Hot Rod Association Trail, but it'll be interesting to see who wins this battle of the rookies. They nail the throttle dead even as they hit the cars, and it looks like the wheel comes off of the Playin For Keeps Chevrolet. Unbelievable! Burgee manages to keep that thing right side up. It slams into the front of the fire truck. And listen to the crowd at the Silverdome. They cannot believe their eyes.
Brett, I'd like to see another angle to see exactly just what happened there.
I really honestly don't know how the wheel came off. It was so sudden. As soon as he hit the cars, the wheel really never even bent. Look at the crowd. They can't believe it. With Jess Burgee, for the rookie that he is, there you see the man behind the wheel checking out that tire.
He wants to know, too, just what happened.
That's a 1,500-pound tire and wheel assembly. All right, here's the slow-motion replay. Let's see what happens. He hits the cars. Everything's fine. The wheel caves in. And as you can see, the axle is still connected to the wheel. That was apparently the actual flange itself that everything's bolted to coming right out of the front differential housing. The thing noses down, hits the concrete. Burgee of the cockpit at that point doesn't have any idea what has happened. What a driving job for that man.
He just knows he's going down further than he ever did before.
Well, nobody was paying attention to this beautiful leap by the Star Monster, landing on the fourth car in this obstacle course and then taking a bounce that kind of threw him around. But Jess Burgee, annihilating the equipment in the other lane, hands the win to the Star Monster. There you see the ground crew having to use one of those big front-end loaders just to get it off the floor of the Silverdome. You know, Shelley, that's 5-ton military axle equipment underneath that thing, and he manages to destroy it. That's power.
I think the operative term was 5 tons.
Well, the Nitemare is Steve Hess over in the far lane, and he'll be up against one of the greatest showmen in monster truck racing, Dave MARQUART's the immaculate Excaliber GM pickup, and indeed, the beautiful machine in the near lane definitely has a horsepower advantage as well. In fact, it shows up immediately when the flag drops sideways on an incredible launch. And what a ride for MARQUART as he takes the win here in the first round. And Shelley, that's what, look at him, waving to the crowd. That's what MARQUART is known for, is that kind of showmanship and driving skill.
Both vehicles got incredible height, which is something that we don't often see side by side.
Especially in an actual race. In exhibition racing, it's fine, but these guys were nailing the throttle, even up to the hit point. There you see Steve Hess go airborne in the slow motion replay. What a landing. Man, was he thrown around in that cockpit. You can see him just barely trying to hang on, and unfortunately, even that incredible jump came in a runner-up effort. Now, watch the king of air in monster truck racing. MARQUART hits the cars, the front end up. Look at this thing, 10 feet in the air. He clears every one of the cars, and again, he's thrown all over the cockpit. Huge bounces by this thing. 17,000 pounds hitting the asphalt from 10 feet up.
And those tires only have 10 pounds of pressure each.
I'll tell you, they will bounce around. What a ride for Dave MARQUART. He advances to the next round, and that will bring up an interesting pairing. In the far lane, it'll be Steve HELM with the Crusher, the Copenhagen Skoal-sponsored early model Chevrolet, taking on one of the true underdogs, Jake Heincke's home-built El Camino from Pennsylvania. The Aces High El Camino using, of all things, a supercharged small-block Chevy engine. Jake is always a showman, but very seldom do you see him actually enter an all-out horsepower and driving skill competition, mainly because that El Camino on the left side of your screen weighs about 17,000 pounds and is way down in horsepower compared to some of the other killers. The green flag comes down. They move up for the first hit, and Heincke actually has a car length advantage, lands it very nicely, and gets across the finish line ahead of Hess. In the Copenhagen Skoal machine, and Heincke gets an upset win there, Shelley.
You know, it's quite a bit different strategy from the first guys that came out in the block to these guys. Those cars are crushed now, so they really have to sail off on their own rather than rely on that. You can see it right here.
I'll tell you, it's a very good point, because even though Jake Heincke goes up in the air, he's still not nearly as high, even though he lands quite sideways. He's not nearly as high as he could be in, say, an exhibition car crush. The objective in an all-out competition such as this side-by-side battle is to keep as low to the ground as possible. Now, the Copenhagen Skoal Chevrolet that you see coming up was also a little bit down on power hitting the cars. At this point, he's already a car length back from Jake Heincke. And you can see he does what he has to do. He keeps the wheels down on the cars so that he can nail the throttle and try and get back around Jake before the finish line. Despite the driving skill employed there by Steve Hess, just wasn't enough to get around the Pennsylvania El Camino. Tremendous first round battle here in side-by-side monster truck competition. Kodiak will take on Star Monster. Excaliber versus Jake Heincke's Aces High will be a great battle. All that will be coming up. We'll be back with more championship action from the U.S. Hot Rod Association at the Pontiac Silverdome in Pontiac, Michigan in just a moment. We're back at the U.S. Hot Rod Association Monster Truck and Mud Racing Spectacular. This is Brett Kepner along with Shelley Herman. And Shelley, we're into the semifinals of monster truck action. To kick it off, it'll be the Star Monster Chevrolet of the one and only Dan Tassone. The New Yorker taking on the incredible Kodiak of Mark Bendler out of Wisconsin. We pointed out earlier, Shelley, that Kodiak and Bendler are ready to win this thing. They're on a roll. And
unlike what we just saw, the side-by-side competition, this one is for keeps. We will eliminate one car. It'll then go on to the finals.
That's right. The winner of this one gets a final round berth. Waiting patiently on the starting line for the flagman there. A good side-by-side start. Bendler pulls out about a half-truck lead by the hit. Sideways again as Bendler is all over the track, but takes a clean win on that one. Shelley, Bendler has been driving his way through these rounds. Unbelievable.
He got to do that. He just keeps his foot down, hammers it through, and even got his car a little muddy.
Yeah, when you get into that mud, those things are impossible to handle, and those wet tires will slide all over this concrete floor, but Bendler handled it beautifully. Like I said, about a half-car lead off the starting line. Here we take a look at Tassone, who was doing his best to keep up. Beautiful, beautiful launch. Lots of air under the machine. He lands on the third car, nails the throttle again, and gets a little bit sideways off that last forward underneath, and then bounces hard. At that point, Bendler was trying to keep it straight. Here you see the Kodiak, 5 feet above those cars, but watch him come down sideways again. Although he braced himself in the cockpit a little bit better this time. Look at this thing, nose up, sideways, and airborne all at once. Now taking two tremendous hits. Look at him fighting that wheel to try and keep it straight. Tremendous job. Mark Bendler goes into the final. Now it'll be another interesting matchup. In the right-hand lane, Jake Heincke's small block Chevy-powered home-built Pennsylvania El Camino called Aces High takes on the Airmaster, Dave MARQUART and Excaliber. Huge lead for Excaliber. Tremendous jump. Great bounce. A lot of pieces coming out from underneath those, Shelley, and that may spell problems for the winner.
I don't think he can spare those spare parts that are laying there on the track.
I don't know what happened. We may have to look at the slow motion to find out what the problem was. Jake Heinke gave it a valiant effort. Here, let's see what happens with MARQUART after another incredible flight in this Chevrolet truck. You see him make the perfect hit. Unbelievable air. You can actually see the drivetrain parts flexing as this thing goes airborne. Now he lands. Tremendous compression. Look at him in the cockpit just sailing with this thing. 16,000 pounds back down on the concrete. Ace's Eye, in the meantime, will advance to the final round. We have just received word that apparently MARQUART's machine is not campaignable for the next round of competition, and with a sideways in the air bounce, Jake Heinke, the ultimate underdog, goes into the final round against Mark Bendler's Kodiak.
What a showdown.
I'll tell you, showdown is the name of the game here, as we've got the first, and we're ready to determine the Monster Truck Championship. And this is maybe a lopsided battle here, Shelley, as the Kodiak of Mark Bendler has been literally driving past his opponents. Jake Heinke in the Pennsylvania-based Ace's Eye small block Chevy-powered monster machine, the El Camino, got here by the luck of his opponent's breakage when Dave Marquardt's incredible Excaliber broke after winning the...
Watch out, the wildest show on wheels.
Jake Heinke's Ace's Eye El Camino just barely being edged out for the Monster Truck Championship by Mark Bendler's Kodiak. Shelley, great race.
Those are the kind of showdowns I like to see. It's one of those, it ain't over till the fat lady sings, it ain't over till the last monster truck crushes.
That's true. It was a great battle. And in mud racing, of course,
Watching ESPN, the Total Sports Network.
racing, of course, we've been talking about world champ Tom Martin.